Genghis Khan, emperor of all men. The mystery 700 years ago, one man conquered almost the entire world. He established himself as the master of half the known earth and ruled over human civilization through terror. And that rule continued for several more generations. In his lifetime, he received many titles: the mighty secret slayer, the scourge of God, the true warrior, king of kings. Though such titles do not apply equally to all emperors, every one of them belonged to him. We Americans were raised in European culture. To us, the great begins with Alexander of Macedon and continues through Caesar to Napoleon. Yet Genghis Khan was an emperor far greater than these familiar European heroes. In truth, he is difficult to measure by ordinary standards. When he marched with his armies, his progress was not measured in miles, but in latitudes and longitudes. Cities that lay in his path often vanished. Rivers changed their courses. Deserts filled with fleeing and dying people. And when he passed through a region, living creatures were often reduced to nothing but wolves and crows. The scale of human destruction he unleashed overwhelms modern imagination. An imagination shaped by the last European wars, Genghis Khan, a tribal chieftain who emerged from the Gobi Desert, declared war on all the civilized peoples of the world and won. To understand what this meant, we must look back to the 13th century. We find that Muslims believed such catastrophic worldly disasters could only come from divine power. The end of the world seemed imminent. Historians say, never before had Islam faced such a situation. They were torn apart between the attacks of the Nazarenes and the Mongols. Even after Genghis Khan's death, Christian lands lived in terror for a generation as the fearsome Mongol horsemen advanced westward toward Europe. The frightened inhabitants fled from the lands of Poland's Boleslaus and Hungary's Bela. Prince Henry of Silesia and his Teutonic knights were killed at Liegnitz. Russia's King George met the same fate under Mongol arrows. And at Castile, Queen Blanche wept before St. Louis, crying, "My son, where are you?" The comparatively cool-headed Frederick II of Germany went on pilgrimage through Christian lands for their sins. He wrote to Henry III of England that the Tatars were nothing less than God's punishment and that they were one of the lost 10 tribes of Israel, worshippers of the golden calf, sent into the refuse of Asia. The reliable Roger Bacon expressed the opinion that the Mongols were the army of Antichrist. They came even during times of dreadful drought to seize the last remaining crops. This belief was reinforced by a piece of misinformation mistakenly attributed to Saint Jerome. It claimed that in the time of Antichrist, a Turkish people would emerge from Gog and Magog, beyond the mountains of Asia, a polluted and filthy race who used neither wine nor salt nor wheat, and who would unleash vast destruction. Thus, Pope Leo convened a council, one of its purposes being to discuss how to defend against the Mongol storm. The resolute and courageous friar, John of Plano Carpini, was sent by the Pope to meet the Mongols. Because we fear that the most immediate and inevitable danger to God's church may come from them, prayers were held in churches to deliver Christendom from Mongol terror. If his devastation and destruction of civilization were the entire story, Genghis Khan would be little more than a second Attila the Hun or the aimless destroyer Timur the Lame. But this scourge was also a true warrior, a crowned and titled emperor. Now we come face to face with the mystery surrounding Genghis Khan. A tribesman, a hunter, a herdsman, destroyed the power of 3 empires. A barbarian who had never seen a city and could not read or write created laws for 50 provinces. Among Europeans, Napoleon possessed the greatest military genius. Yet we must remember that he abandoned a vast army to its fate in Egypt and left part of another to freeze in Russia. He was finally shattered at Waterloo. His empire collapsed, his laws were discarded, and his son was deposed before his death. To find a comparable genius of conquest to Genghis Khan, we must look to Alexander of Macedon, the reckless and victorious youth. Alexander was godlike, He marched eastward with a great army, bearing Greek culture with him. Both men died while the tide of victory still flowed, and their names became legends across Asia. Only after their deaths did the difference in their achievements become clear, and here lies the contrast. Alexander's generals fought among themselves for power, forcing his son to flee. Genghis Khan, by contrast, established himself as the undisputed ruler from Armenia to Korea, and from Tibet to the Volga, a realm his son inherited without opposition. His grandson, Kublai Khan, went on to rule half the world. How a barbarian rose from absolute poverty to found such a vast empire remains a mystery to historians. A British scholar who recently compiled the chronicles of that era admitted that Genghis Khan's rise was truly inexplicable. One discerning observer, pausing in awe, remarked, "We find no one to compare with Genghis Khan's personality except Shakespeare's genius." There are many reasons why Genghis Khan's character remained hidden from us. One is that the Mongols neither knew how to write nor felt the need to. Thus, what we know of his time comes from scattered Uyghur, Chinese, Persian, and Armenian records. Until recently, these Mongol epics had not been satisfactorily translated. Most of the historians who wrote about him were his enemies, an important fact to remember before judging him. They belonged to unfamiliar civilizations, much like 13th century Europeans, whose understanding of the world beyond their own was vague. Thus they portrayed the Mongols as a people who emerged suddenly from obscurity. They felt the Mongols' terrifying impact directly, and witnessed that force pass through them into other lands. Such overwhelming experiences were utterly foreign to them. A Muslim scholar of the time wrote, "They came, conquered, caused chaos, plundered everything, gathered it up, and then departed." Gathering and evaluating information about the Mongols was extremely difficult. Orientalists who undertook this task naturally wrote political narratives of Mongol conquest. They presented Genghis Khan as a power-hungry barbarian force, one that repeatedly emerged from the desert to crush civilization. Reading the chronicles of his conquests does not explain the mystery surrounding him. They simply state that Genghis Khan was a ruler of divine lineage. Instead of mystery, we are given miracles. As we have seen, medieval European historians believed the Mongols were possessed by a demonic force that crashed down upon Europe. Such notions are deeply unsatisfactory. Modern historians must discard these 13th century superstitions, especially the idea that Genghis Khan was a supernatural invader. There is a simple way to illuminate the mystery surrounding him. We must turn the clock back 700 years and look at Genghis Khan as the historians of his time saw him, not as a supernatural phenomenon or barbaric force, but as a man. We will not speak only of Mongol political achievements, but of the man who transformed an obscure tribe into the rulers of half the world. To truly understand him, we must return to the environment in which he lived, among his own people, 7 centuries ago. We must not judge him by modern civilization, but see him as a man raised in a barren land, among hunters chasing reindeer and mounted nomads. The people there wore animal skins. They lived on milk and meat. To protect themselves from cold and dampness, they greased their bodies with fat. They debated whether death would come from starvation or extreme cold, or sometimes from another man's weapon. The brave Friar Carpini, the first European to visit this region, wrote, "There are no cities here. As far as the eye can see, nothing but endless wilderness. Not even 1% of the land is fertile, only narrow strips along rivers, and even those are rare. There are no large trees, though the grass is good for livestock. Even lords and princes burn dried animal dung for fuel. The climate is extremely harsh. In midsummer, terrible thunderstorms strike, killing many people. There is heavy snowfall, and at times freezing winds blow so fiercely that a man cannot remain seated on his horse. In one such storm, we were thrown to the ground and blinded by dust. Violent hailstorms are frequent. After unbearable heat comes intense cold.